Wednesday, you know what that means. It is our Wednesday morning Bible study. I am here with Pastor Caitlin. Caitlin's our children's pastor. Caitlin, how you doing this morning?
I'm good.
You excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have Wednesday night. You pumped for Wednesday night?
Yes. Yeah, we're doing Easter tonight, so I like Easter's my favorite.
Easter's it's the Easter season. It's that time where we celebrate the empty grave. So I'm super pumped. Now, before we dive in, if this is your first time joining us, man, we're super pumped. That you are a part of us, whether you're watching right now on Facebook, watching later on YouTube, or listening to our podcast. Here's the whole reason why we do this. We want to grow together right where we are, right? So the best way to look like Jesus is to look at Jesus and to start imitating the things that he's doing. So we've been on this journey through the book of Mark, just going little piece by little piece at a time. So we are in Mark chapter 7. If you got a Bible, open up to Mark chapter 7, and we are actually, this is one of my favorite stories. We're going to start in verse 24, so I'm going to read it, and then we're going to start diving in. It says this, verse 24, he got up and departed from there to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, but he could not escape notice. Isn't that awesome? Jesus couldn't. Isn't it weird how like Jesus is everywhere, but we are oftentimes when we're searching for Jesus, it's because we've neglected him. But when Jesus was actually physically here, he couldn't escape notice. People always wanted to be with him. Crazy how times are. Instead, immediately after hearing about him, a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Gentile, a Syrophoenician by birth, and she was asking him to cast the demon out of her. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, because it isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she replied to him, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he said to her, "Because of your reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." When she went back to her home, she found her child laying on the bed, and the demon was gone. Oh, it's about to get real good. Caitlin, what did you see in all of this?
Well, something that just came to my mind whenever you were talking about, when Jesus was there and he couldn't ever escape. Well, I feel like now, like we feel like he's not with us, but when we need something, like she needed
that's
something,
really good.
We're like, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" But during the good times or whenever we feel like we have to do it on our own, we don't ever look for him. But when we need something or we need a miracle, that's the first place we go to. But he's there. He's present, good and bad.
I feel like what happens, that's a really good point. I think what happens, especially I would propose in our American culture, like be who you want to be, go accomplish your own dreams, is we become very independent. And the only time that we run to God is like when things are broken or when things are messed up. When the truth is you can't do it without God.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the scripture says. We apart from God, we can't do anything.
Exactly.
So it's so much easier to live life alongside God than to stray and then to want to know where he's at. Even though it says that, James says, "Draw near to me and I'll draw near to you," meaning that Jesus is literally right where he was when we left him. But, man.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this. Okay, so there's this lady.
Right.
She shows up. Jesus is trying to be unnoticed. He's noticed. This lady shows up, and she's got a sick daughter. What when you read the story, what are the things that are kind of standing out to you?
Well, we've talked about, dog was a derogatory term that they would use, for Gentiles back then. But something that he tells her, when he's talking about the children, he's talking about like Israel. Like even though like they get bread, they get him, but the dogs also get him too. And I know that, like you said, like they're talking about pet dogs here, not dirty dogs. But Jesus wants all of us. He's not just for the Israelites. He's not just for those that were raised in church. He's not just for those who can quote this little book here. Like he's for everyone who is searching for him, everyone who's wanting to, even though you feel like you don't have a seat at the table, even the dogs under the table got crumbs. And so even if you feel like you're not a part or like you don't have a seat at the table, Jesus has something for you.
That is so good.
So,
if you look at this story appears in some of the other gospels. So there's like different dialogues that goes on. We were talking about this before we hopped on here. In one of the other gospels, I can't remember which one it is, but the lady will walk up and she'll go to Jesus. "Jesus, my daughter's sick," and the disciples will actually comment. So in Mark's gospel, the disciples don't say anything, or it's not recorded that they did. But in one of the other ones, the disciples are like, "Jesus, she's bothering us. Can you send her away? And we were laughing because the disciples are really funny because they like to interject where really there's nothing that needs to be interjected. And if I was this Syrophoenician, this Gentile worship woman, I would have been like, was I even talking to you? Like, is your name Jesus? Are you Yahweh? Are you the one that heals? At this point, they would have already healed people because Jesus had sent them out. But I'll tell you what I see in all of this is actually a test.
Yeah.
You know, so this lady comes, she knows that Jesus can heal. The word's gotten around, and that's why Jesus went around unnoticed, or it was hard for him to not be noticed,
Right.
was because of all the things that he's done. He's taught with authority that's never happened. He's healed. He's casted out demons. He's stopped storms. Like, Jesus he's the miracle man. He's done it all, and the word's gotten out. So this lady's like, this is my last shot. Like, there's this spirit over my daughter. So she runs to Jesus, and Jesus makes this statement. We titled this, what did Jesus call her? Because, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, what did Jesus... like, realistically, think about how, in America, how offended would people be if you went up to Jesus and he was like, listen, I'm here for the lost sheep of Israel. Nobody takes food from their kids and feeds it to dogs. Like, if Jesus called you a dog, you would straight up be mad. You would have walked out that door. You'd have been talking about him behind his back. You know what I mean? Like, think about all
Totally offended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the most offended people in the world. And Jesus' statement was a test. So the term, like what you were talking about with dogs, is it was very much a derogatory term. The Jews called the Gentiles dogs, right? It basically meant like you were dirty, you were filthy. But Jesus, this is where like the Greek language is awesome. I like to nerd out on that stuff. Jesus wouldn't use their normal term for dog. Jesus would use the term for house pet, like a house dog, right? And culturally, before Rome had taken over, there wasn't house pets. You know what I mean? Like, you know how we've got Sky, y'all got Rango. Is
Rowdy.
Rowdy is Rango. Rango's Rowdy. What are the... Yeah, I literally drop my kid off at their house every day. Don't you judge me. Right? So they got Rowdy. Like, we have these house pets. Well, house pets were not introduced into the home until the Roman Empire had taken over.
Right.
So Jesus uses this word, like not just a dog, but this house dog, to see if she would catch it. Like, I think Jesus is kind of like, hey, did you see
that?
God, did you see what I did there? I'm going to see if she's...
They probably didn't get it either, though, to be honest.
Well, that's true. And how many times have we missed out on opportunities to experience God at a new level, or maybe where he's testing our faith because we misinterpreted what he's doing?
We get offended.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like she could have been so mad and missed out on this opportunity because she was offended by the term dog, but instead she paid attention to what Jesus was saying and what he was doing, that she caught it. And that's where, at first I used to love this story because I thought she talked back to Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how many of y'all grew up and if you talked back to your parents, you got in trouble?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was, my mom's probably listening right now. So she's probably like, don't you talk back. Don't you say whatever. You know what I mean? That was, whatever was a cuss word in our house. But I always liked it because I was like, oh, she talked back to Jesus. This lady, oh, she was gutsy. She talked back to Jesus. But instead what she did was she showed that she still had faith.
Yeah.
You know, she said even the dogs, Jesus' statement wasn't saying, hey, you're filthy, you're an animal. It was, hey, eventually in the end of all of this, you're going to be included. A lot like what you said. You know, it wasn't just for Israel. Jesus died for
Everyone.
For everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody. And then he closes and he says, because of this reply, you may go. The other gospel says, because of your great faith. Now, interesting, there's only 2 times that Jesus said people had great faith, and neither one of them were Jewish. It was always a Gentile. It was the Roman centurion and the Syrophoenician woman. And what I love is in both situations, healing took place over distance.
Yeah, he wasn't present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Her daughter, she gets home and her daughter was lying and the demon was gone. The Roman centurion, his servant, was healed. You know what I mean? It just makes me think of like if we would be unoffended. If we would be unoffended and we would actually notice what Jesus is doing, you know, what's on the backside of it. You know, what I mean? That's considered great faith. She was unoffended and persistent. Unoffended and persistent. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah, because had she taken up offense, her daughter might not have been healed. So what have you hindered because you were offended?
That's such a such a now word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we
Yeah.
talked about it when Jesus was in his hometown, and it says that they were offended. It wasn't just unbelief that kept him from doing stuff. It was their offense as well.
Yeah.
You know, listen, you want to live an unoffendable life? Quit choosing to be offended.
Yep.
Offense is a choice 100% of the time. You choose to be offended, right? You have to choose it. Now, an offense may be there, right? You can't choose what people say.
Wow.
You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose whether you're going to hold on to that and be offended by it.
And what your response is.
Exactly. Her response, her choice. That's it. Offense is a choice. Her choice was to be persistent, to go after the one who brings healing, to go out after the one that that casts out demons.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. What are you missing out on because you're offended?
Mm-hmm.
What are you missing? And let's just not talk about direct offense, because I think one of the most dangerous offenses is borrowed offense.
Yeah.
Borrowed offense is this idea of, like, let's say, Caitlin's on my staff and you say something mean to Caitlin, right? It would be me being mad at you for what you said to her.
Yeah.
You and me may have been good, but because you said it to her, I'm offended at you. So all of a sudden it wasn't a one-on-one thing, it's a two-on-one now. You know what I mean? A lot of, we are destroying relationships because we are, one, either directly offended or we're taking up a borrowed offense. And then it goes back to the question that you asked, which I think should be the question of the podcast, the question of the Bible study is, so what are we missing out on because we're offended?
Yeah. Yeah, or what are other people missing out on because you got offended? Maybe the person you got offended at was who you're supposed to reach out to.
Yeah.
Like...
Ooh.
Like, oh, I know,
That
it's
was really
hard.
good.
It's hard.
It's no harder than Jesus calling her a dog.
No,
You know what I mean? No harder
it's true.
than because Jesus called her a dog. Well, is there anything else you want to add? I thought that was really good.
That's good.
Ah, man, the major takeaway is, what are you missing out on because you're offended? What are you missing out on? Are you easily offended? If you are offended, go get over it. Like, choose to get over it. Like, move on. If you need to apologize, go fix it, because that's humility. Remember, God humbles the prideful and he exalts the humble. So, man, well, we hope that this encouraged you. We hope it blessed you. Caitlin, thanks for coming up here and diving in. And again, this is why we do this. We want to grow together right where we are. We hope you have an amazing week.